Now that I've got the water rudder retract cable fairing set up to put in through the floor, I want to get an attach point for the water rudder cable itself. When you pull the water rudder cable to retract it for takeoff and landing, you pull on the string and pulls the cable up, which pulls the water rudders up. Well, that cable's got to hang someplace. And on the other airframe, it had a hanger that was just screwed into the sheet metal in the interior paneling of the airplane, and over time that thing just hogged out. They say that just the sheet metal screws going through the 25 thousandths or 20 thousandths, whatever that interior paneling was, and it, just like all the rest of the sheet metal screws in it, they just get hogged out and the screws wouldn't stay in. So I'm going to try to fix that. We've got this A-frame over here, this kind of cluster. It comes together as a cluster here underneath this front window post, and here's the throttle quadrant here, and down here is the fuel selector valve, and then back behind it's the trim. And so this A-frame right here is not being used up in that area. There's a tab right there, tab right here for holding the interior paneling on, and I don't really want to interfere with that. So what I'm going to do here is, like I did, well, down below there is a panel for holding fair lead for the air rudders, and that'll be behind the interior panel. Well, I'm going to do the same thing up here to hang the water rudders on. I've already got some cable clamps set up on there. These are some I put together a while back where I put some nutserts in there. So they're number 6 nutserts, so I just take screws and screw them in and out and don't have to worry about trying to hold a nut on the back of them. I've cut a piece of 032 plate, and I'm going to put it in right in like that. Once I get that on and set up, then I'll drill this plate out for a couple of nut plates and make a hanger for that water rudder cable. So I got this backing plate for the water rudder retract cable set up here, mounted up now. Just got it mounted up with truss head screws for now. I'll countersink those holes later and put flathead screws in there, but for mounting this up, locating the screws and getting everything mounted up, truss head screws are fine. I've got an AN 742 clamp here on the back side on this diagonal that goes this way, and another 742 clamp on this this post that comes up here. It's kind of on a diagonal too. It's right below the throttle quadrant, so I can get that cable up high and above this hole or this tab here for mounting the interior side panels. So now I'll locate a couple of holes in here for nut plates. I think I'll put some number 8 nut plates in there. So there's the backing plate for the water rudder retract cable hanger. I might trim off round this off a little bit maybe. Doesn't hurt anything the way it is, but it's got a little extra hanging out of there. I countersunk the the attached screw holes, and put flathead screws in there and have the nut plates riveted on. And once I get it off and powder coated, then I'll just leave it on there. I'll have to make a hook for the water rudder cable to hang from and attach on there, but that'll go on outside of the interior panels when we put those on. I need to make a hanger for my water rudders, and this I got is a stainless steel ring, and I'll wrap the water rudder cable around that with a NacoPress sleeve here, and that's what I use to activate the water rudders, bring them up and down with, and then hang them on the hook. Now I don't have all the facilities to make it easy to deal with stainless steel. I wanted to make that hanger out of stainless steel, and I don't, like I said, I don't really have all the facilities to make it easy to handle stainless steel, to cut it and shape it and stuff the way I'd like to. So I was looking for some alternative way, something that would be a little easier to convert into a handle, something that wouldn't take as much work. Well, I get to looking around the hardware store for something to figure out what I could use, and this is what I come up with. This is a stainless steel spatula, and it's fairly thick, nice and heavy. It did have a curve in here, and I kind of hammered that curve out of there, kind of dimpled that up a little bit, so I'm going to have to polish that up a little bit to kind of smooth that out, make it look a little better. And then it tapers down here, so I cut this handle off back here, and this will be enough to give me a tang to bolt onto the pad that I made, the mount that I made on the fuselage in there. And I'll drill a couple holes in there for some screws to hold that on, and then I'll take this part here and roll it up into a hook that I can use to hang this hook or this ring from. So I trued up this end here, this cutoff end, and rounded it over a little bit, and I'll go ahead and sand it down with some finer sandpaper and polish it up. But I'll go ahead and cut this off here where I can roll a hook up into it out of this narrower spot, and I'll go ahead and, like I said, cut it off. I'm just using a Dremel tool and a cut-off wheel to cut that off with, and once I get it cut off, I'll take it over to the disc sander and round that over. Yeah, I've got my handle cut off there, and I just figured, well, this is going to be the pad that's going to mount onto the side of the airplane here, so I've got to drill that and put for screws, and I have to have access to that for screws. So I want my hook down below that. And figuring out how much I needed for my hook, I just figured roughly that the radius of the bend would be roughly about the size of my finger, so I stuck my finger in there and put 2 fingers in, and then third finger, then that kind of roughly give me what I wanted. That's just rough. So then I took it over to the sander and rounded that end over, and I may have to trim that down a little bit more. So that's what's left of my spatula. Okay, I took this over to the airplane, the fuselage, and held it up where that plate was that I mounted on there for mounting this to, and marked where the holes went. I just took a number 30 drill bit and stuck through the backside through the nut plates, held this up on there where I wanted it, and made the marks, and then brought it back over here to the bench, and I piloted out the holes with a number 30 drill bit. Then I took a number 17 drill bit and finished the holes out. 18 drill bit is specified for a tight fit hole for a number 8 screw, and a 16 for a free fit. 17 I figured would work just fine. That's what I had up on the shelf without digging out my numbered bits, and I didn't really want to ruin one in stainless steel, so I've got a whole bunch of 17s. But anyway, that worked fine, and then I took a countersink and countersinked the holes out in it. And one of the things that countersink does, and the reason the 17 bit worked fine, is the countersink will get down in there and actually opens that hole up some more. So I've countersunk that out for a number 8 screw, and I'll take this over there and mount it up on the fuselage and see how it fits before I do anything else. Now, I didn't have any oil up here at the shop for drilling, and so I just I've got some air tool oil here. I just used that, and that worked pretty good. It made those drill bits go through there pretty good. So, well, there's my piece mounted up on the airplane here. Looks like what it is, a cut-off handle. We'll see if we can't change that. But anyway, it fits. That'll be all right. All right, I put a bend in that hanger. I took it down to the shop, and I had a piece of 5/8 inch tubing there, steel tubing, and I put both of them into the bench vise, tightened it up on them, and then took a hammer and started the bend, and then went ahead and closed it up in the vise. That makes a pretty nice radius there. I've got pretty long tongue sticking up on that yet, so I may, pretty symmetrical the way it is. I have to decide. It's kind of a long pull to get it off there, but you don't want it too close. I might cut that off about 3/4 of an inch. I think I'll do that. I did want to go ahead and cut about an inch off of that and rounded it down. And I'd say it's a lot easier to do that with it flat than it is when it's bent like that. I was able to get it shaped here on the end on the disc sander, but I had to take a hand file and clean off this burr and kind of chamfer that edge in there on the inside. And there's what it's going to look like in the airplane. It's not too bad at all. I was afraid I was going to have it down too low or too high, but I think that's going to be just about right. It's just a little below the bottom of the instrument panel there. I was wanting to make it sure I had plenty of throw on that so I could make sure and get it plenty high enough to get those water rudders all the way up, and I don't think that's going to be a problem. The last time it kind of had a short throw where it was hanging, but I think this time it's going to be okay. And if I don't like it, I'll go ahead and do it again. I took that down to the shop and powder coated it black. Well, that looks better. Well, looked okay before. I could have brushed it and it would have looked fine, but I probably should have put that wrinkle black on there or something instead of the gloss black, but it'll be fine. That's the way it looks like. Now, there it is hooked up onto the airframe. I think that's going to be a lot better than the old one was. It's tied into that plate there. There'll be a cable coming down off that ring where that tag comes down off of there.